lady who asked me to place her suitcase in the luggage rack, and who thanked me and gave me permission to smoke. Mrs. Martin. But of course, that must have been I, sir. How curious it is! How curious it is, and what a coincidence! Mr. Martin. How curious it is! How bizarre! What a coincidence! And well, it was perhaps at that moment that we came to know each other, madam. Mrs. Martin. How curious it is, and what a coincidence! It is indeed possible, my dear sir. However, I do not believe that I recall it. Mr. Martin. Nor do I, madam. Since coming to London, I have resided in Bromfield Street, my dear lady. Mrs. Martin. How curious that is! How bizarre! I, too, since coming to London, have resided in Bromfield Street, my dear sir. Mr. Martin. How curious that is! Well then, perhaps we have seen each other in Bromfield Street, my dear lady. Mrs. Martin. How curious that is! How bizarre! It is indeed possible, after all, but I do not recall it, my dear sir. Mr. Martin. I reside at number 19, my dear lady. Mrs. Martin. How curious that is! I also reside at number 19, my dear sir. Mr. Martin. Well then, perhaps we have seen each other in that house, dear lady. Mrs. Martin. It is indeed possible, but I do not recall it, dear sir. Mr. Martin. My flat is on the 5th floor, number 8, my dear lady. Mrs. Martin. How curious it is, good Lord, how bizarre! And what a coincidence! I too reside on the 5th floor at flat number 8, dear sir. Mr. Martin. How curious it is! How curious it is! How curious it is, and what a coincidence! You know, in my bedroom there is a bed, and it is covered with a green eiderdown. This room with the bed and the green eiderdown is at the end of the corridor between the WC and the bookcase, dear lady. Mrs. Martin. What a coincidence, good Lord! What a coincidence! My bedroom, too, has a bed with a green eiderdown, and is at the end of a corridor between the WC, dear sir, and the bookcase. Mr. Martin. How bizarre, curious, strange. Then, madam, we live in the same room, and we sleep in the same bed, dear lady. It is perhaps there that we have met. Mrs. Martin. How curious it is, and what a coincidence! It is indeed possible that we have met there, and perhaps even last night, but I do not recall it, dear sir. Mr. Martin. I have a little girl, my little daughter. She lives with me, dear lady. She is 2 years old. She's blonde. She has a white eye and a red eye. She is very pretty. Her name is Alice, dear lady. Mrs. Martin. What a bizarre coincidence! I, too, have a little girl. She is 2 years old, has a white eye and a red eye. She is very pretty, and her name is Alice, too, dear sir. Mr. Martin. How curious it is, and what a coincidence! And bizarre! And perhaps they are the same, dear lady. Mrs. Martin. How curious it is! It is indeed possible, dear sir. Mr. Martin. I'm sorry, there's a lot of stage directions here. Mr. Martin. Then, dear lady, I believe that there can be no doubt about it. We have seen each other before, and you are my own wife. Elizabeth, I have found you again. Mrs. Martin. Donald, it's you, darling. Mary enters and addresses the audience directly. Mary. Elizabeth and Donald are now too happy to be able to hear me. I can therefore let you in on a secret. Elizabeth is not Elizabeth. Donald is not Donald. And here is the proof. The child that Donald spoke of is not Elizabeth's daughter. They are not the same person. Donald's daughter has one white eye and one red eye like Elizabeth's daughter, whereas Donald's child has a white red eye and a left red eye. Elizabeth's child has a right red eye and a white left eye. Thus all of Donald's system of deduction collapses when it comes up against this last obstacle, which destroys his whole theory. In spite of the extraordinary coincidences which seem to be definitive proofs, Donald and Elizabeth, not being the parents of the same child, are not Donald and Elizabeth. It is vain that he thinks he is Donald. It is in vain that she thinks she is Elizabeth. He believes in vain that she is Elizabeth. She believes in vain that he is Donald. They are sadly deceived. But who is the true Donald? Who is the true Elizabeth? Who has any interest in prolonging this confusion? I don't know. Let's not try to know. Let's leave things as they are. My real name is Sherlock Holmes.